So, hey, great to be here. Luckily, we can build on some of the ground that Edwin already covered. And you learned about the funnel and the cylinder and how many countries, but also organizations are already in the process of hitting the wall or already hit them. And what you want to have is you want to have an understanding, what does that equilibrium look like? What does sustainability truly mean? Because let's say you have a definition for that, you could start moving strategically in that direction. And on an ecological level, there are various approaches out there. The two major ones are dematerialization and substitution with all the additional stuff that you probably know: waste elimination, circularity, virtualization, localization. They all fit together. And if anyone is out here looking for innovation, you will find a lot of innovation potential in this area. But not just on this field, not just products, it's innovation everywhere, on business models, on the way you lead an organization, et cetera, et cetera. Now, coming back to that picture that we had before. So if you do have a definition of what social ecological sustainability truly means, then based on that definition, you can develop your vision of an organization, your BHAG, if you've heard that term before, your big, hairy, audacious goal, your moonshot. And based on that, you would not start with commitment and then somewhere align and maybe eventually find your direction. It's the other way around. Based on that, you can find your direction, align correspondingly everyone who is involved in achieving that. And then we look all into our eyes and say, are we really going to want to go for it? And then there's the full commitment, ideally, because otherwise it is not going to work. And even if that might still lead to some adaptation, what you do have is you have your North Star that provides you guidance where to go to, which is built on that shared understanding of what sustainability truly means. I can only cover that part very quickly. As Edwin said before, it's rooted in science, so I will not go into share the deduction how you come there. But all the symptoms that you see out there, be it on social or ecological level, talking about climate change, ocean acidification, species extinction, etc., these are all symptoms. But they have three root causes, and they changed around into principles, mean we are sustainable in an ecological sense when we no longer systematically contribute to taking material from the earth crust and introducing that into the biosphere. Biggest problem there, burning of fossil fuels. But this is not enough. So just dealing with climate change will not cut it. It's also that we no longer systematically introduce materials into the biosphere that the biosphere cannot process. Just take an example of plastic in the ocean. The biosphere does not know how to process that. That again is not all, but we also want to stop systematically preventing nature from running in cycles. And just yesterday or the day before yesterday, I heard in the news that current number of football fields that are cut off in the rainforest, it just takes 3 minutes. As we speak, every 3 minutes, they cut that off. And that's just one part of that. So degradation. This is required for us to continue to exist as a species. But even within our society, we would like to make sure that we not, whatever our power system may be, systematically build up barriers with respect to physical, mental, and emotional health, with respect to influence in the decision-making process, with respect to building up competence. And we're just talking about that, what's going to happen here, which is essential. Treating everyone impartial, independent from their sexual orientation, their gender, their color of the skin, their religious beliefs. And last but not least, we are a meaning-seeking species. We ask the question, why are we doing certain things? If we don't find meaning, societies fall apart. And whenever societies fall apart on a limited planet, then that's bad for business. So taking that into the consideration, we coined a term which we call future fitness. And we say the first part is usually very easy to accept for business. That is a condition of a company when the interaction of, well, people, we all get together as leaders of operations and long-term strategy. If that all plays together in such a way that we have sustainable success. Everyone on board so far, right? But now here it is. Without systematically violating the sustainability principles of the surrounding system, society, and environment on which we depend on, and preferably contributing to the future regeneration and thriving of these systems. And lucky us that while you just learned about the sustainability principles, our friend at FutureFit Foundation have developed that further and translated that into FutureFit business benchmark goals. And you're going to learn something about that later today anyway. And that is a fantastic connection of translating that science into something that business can work with. Obviously, based on that, we call something, we never came up with a better term than calling it 6 bubbles. But what we would like to express is that covers any area of a business. So it is about governance and leadership. It's about your products and your services. It's about the processes that you have in your organization. It is, of course, about communication. It's about the very essence of your organization, DNA and culture, And at the end of the day, obviously also about finance and the underlying economics. So coming back to that spiral, there is a material relationship that you would like to take into consideration. And depending on where you are on the spiral, you deal with it in a different way. So what's the negative impact that your business, your organization has on the economy, the environment, the society? What's the risk that you see yourself exposed to coming from the environment, society, and the economy? And to what extent can you contribute to creating value in the economy, the environment, and society? Now, depending on where you are on that spiral, you either say, well, with respect to negative impact, you just ignore that. We don't care. While on the other area, you really want to zero contribute social ecological system degradation. From a risk perspective, it's basically about uncertainty in VUCA times, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, disruptive times, where you don't know how to orientate yourself. While in the other field, you find clarity and to have a strategic approach and know where you would like to go. And when it comes to value creation, for those who are low there, that's a threat, because others who see the value that they can create, they're going to outcompete them. While if you really embrace that change, there is tremendous opportunities out there to really create new value and contribute positively and making a hell of a lot of money by saving our species on that planet. So to do all that, we came up with a process when working with organizations, how to manage that transformation process, which we call advice. And I would like to quickly elaborate on that, because that might also give you some ideas and some thoughts on where you can contribute towards change and transformation. And the first one I skipped. It means ACER key stakeholders, and you have no clue what that means, but that's going to be my last slide. The next one is then diagnose your organization. So it's not just about to what extent are you violating the sustainability principles today, but what does also mean that these disruptive times that we're living in, what do they mean for your organization? How can this disruptive technologies really help you? Also will help you to make better decisions, what technologies to go for, how to use them, and also where to be careful with them. Is nanotechnology good or bad? Is AI good or bad? Take guidance from understanding what social ecological success means, and you will find the proper answers. Now, based on that, you also want then to visualize your future. We already addressed that. And then based on that, what you want to do is a backcasting from sustainability principles, a backcasting from understanding what future fitness truly means, and start to innovate. Well, you will come up with tons of ideas. So you have to start to strategize. You want to ask yourself, what are the options that we have here? What's the pathway that we would like to take? And first of all, does it lead us in the right direction? Is it a flexible platform, or is it a dead end? Can we move to the next step and to the next step? And last but not least, is there a return on investment who makes it worthwhile to take that step? These are the three minimum questions. There might be, of course, additional questions. And then you start to engage your transformation and move forward and learn along the way. And you will at some point in time very quickly realize that you will not be able to do that just on your own. You will have to collaborate with many others across the value chain, across the industries, across stakeholders. So I mentioned again that spiral, but it's actually pretty powerful. It can work a lot with that. So I mentioned the ACER part. And before I do that, I would like to introduce some other terminologies that we had to learn in a very painful way along the way. So while you just learned about those terms, which are more related to the maturity of an organization, you also find a similar way on individual level. And that is, when it comes to sustainability, and you would really like to work with people out there, there are some which we call the innocent. And we don't mean that in any negative way. It's like you want to teach a 6-year-old on higher mathematics, and then you blame the child that he doesn't get he or she doesn't get it. No, it's just innocent. They don't get it yet. But probably some of them are there who are never going to get it when it is about sustainability. The next one we call the ignorant, and they fall in two groups. The consciously ignorant, and my personal opinion is these are dangerous people because they know what is going on and they don't care. And then there are the others who are unconsciously ignorant but would have the potential to get what you're talking about. So let's work with these guys. Now, the next one we call, and that is not supposed to sound in any way incompetent, because we're all in that room. We are incompetent in certain areas, right? I don't know how to play golf. I never learned it so far. So I'm very incompetent when it comes to playing golf. So the incompetent, they would acknowledge what's currently going on there. But they say, oh, now we have COVID and we have Brexit. And now the whole issues going on with China and logistics and sustainability. Yes, yes, yes. And war for talents, all of that. They agree to all that, but they don't know how to handle that. they require complete different treatment and way work with them than compared to the next group, which we call the independent. They already are on the road. They embrace sustainability, but they still follow a reductionist approach. They don't necessarily apply whole system thinking and see that sometimes even with best intentions, they could do the wrong thing. And the last group, we call them the interdependents, great people to work with. They are on a different level. You collaborate, you share, how can we get the job done all together? And I hope, by the way, we all want to collaborate on whatever's going to happen out there because that is what's needed. Now, that gets me to my funny ACER process. And ACER is something we came up with when we said, why does change happen? Why does it not happen? When does it happen? And what we would really like to see at the end of a process, and you can even transfer that to any change that you've experienced in your life, maybe change your diet, stop smoking, whatever that may be. What you would like to have at the end of the day is what you would like to see observed is a response, a change in behavior. But for that to happen, something prior to that needs to happen. We call it embrace change. And that is usually related to either pain or gain. Either the pain has become so big that maybe the doctor said, well, great that you made it again here. That was now the third time. Next time, across the road, great graveyard, fantastic view. And that might just be the shock that you needed to embrace change. I wonder how many more shocks we need to embrace change. But also the gain, the positive thing to see what we could achieve. I'm a big Star Trek fan, but if you would like to think about a vision of what humanity could achieve, that was the motivation of Gene Roddenberry, who invented Star Trek. So I know that was a side issue, but I had to place that. But for embrace to happen, which something before that needs to happen, that is comprehend. You need to have the proper education. You need to get what whole system thinking means, how sustainability is defined in that example. And before that, you need to become awake. You need to become aware. Something is going on. You don't know yet what it is, but you got to do something about it. Now, the thing here is there are so many people out there, you can rattle their cage as much as you want. They are not going to wake up in this life. Don't waste your valuable energy on them. But just because someone is awake doesn't mean that he or she really understood what you're talking about. Just because we understand that we have to do something doesn't mean that we embrace change. But the embrace part also needs to happen for us to respond and take the first of many, many steps to follow, which is then advice process, DVISE process that I described later on. To put that all together is 7 recommendations. Commit to a shared definition of sustainability and recognize that it is in your very own interest. Provide direction with a clear vision of success and long-term goals. Enhance education backed by science-based concepts and whole system thinking. Select a strategic sustainability framework. And there's one out there that has been there for 30 years. I discovered it in 2012 and was just destroyed that I had to get that all to see it. And develop a roadmap for the way ahead. Develop your business case addressing risk, value creation, and impact. Think about triple materiality that I showed before. Unfold a leadership and innovation culture throughout the organization. And lastly, catalyze alignment and collaboration by ongoing stakeholder engagement with everyone out there.